Okay, well, welcome. Today, I got a whole bunch of different things that I'm going to cover, and I might as well just get right into it. I'm a little bit early; it's 2:59, but here we go. Let's see what we got. I this morning, as I so you all know, one of the jobs that I do is I work as a project manager. I'm an independent project manager that's hired by general contractors. I'm sort of like a consultant. So I do independent consulting for all different size companies on different kinds of projects. I also do independent construction projects for either homeowners, people that are having anything built, all the way to general contractors. And I kind of oversee and use my expertise in that field in building different projects. So today, I usually on Wednesdays, I go to different job sites. And this morning I was out checking them out. And as I was driving, I like to listen to Sean Ryan, Tucker Carlson, uh, various different people. And today I was listening to Tucker Carlson, and man, oh man, he had who do you have on there? Retired Colonel Douglas McGregor. Wow, that's a good one. If anybody gets a chance to look at that one, it's pretty good. It goes into about how the U.S. is depleted and how we're spread so thin throughout the world with our military, and just about the last 30 years how we've been doing things. Goes into great detail about how the weapons sent to Ukraine. They're saying that 50% of them didn't even make it to Ukraine. They're saying up to 20% of them made it. Actually, Russia intercepted them, so they went into the Russia sides, were like Javelin missiles and stuff like that. The other 20-25% of them went straight to the black market and were sold to Mexico. And he's claiming that just within the border, within hundreds of yards, sometimes thousands of yards away from the border, the drug cartels have this our old stuff that we sent to Ukraine for them to use in the war is sitting aimed at our country to use against us. Well, I don't know. I'm not on the border. Can't tell you, but it's pretty wild. He goes into a lot of stuff there. I always like listening to him. I always like listening to Tucker Carlson talk. I don't know. I find a good perspective. Really like listening to Sean Ryan, of course, Joe Rogan. Those guys. They're kind of my jam. It's where I spend some of my free time. What free time I do have. Anyways, jumping into it, and the way this is going to work this week is I think I'm going to do a weekly live stream on Wednesdays, going over the things that happened over the last week. I'm going to take the videos that I've done over the past week, and I'm actually going to update with what's happened in the news around those. So what I kind of do is there's things that are really important to me that I want to get out there. Uh, there's guys that I follow. I have a background in finance and construction, so those are two things that are that I'm very interested in. The market. I do actively trade myself. I had at one time in my life been a financial advisor. I had three securities licenses, life and health. I could do financial plans. I could take fiduciary responsibilities. I've been CFO. I've had all different in finance. I've had all different roles. I've owned businesses. I've done a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So business and just finance, money, stocks, investments. I geek out on that stuff. I also geek out on the fact that most of my trades, I'm not a hodl or a hold guy. I'm get in, get out. So I'm more of a technical type person. So I like to spend my time trading in the options world. Might be way advanced for some people, not for others. It's just what I like to do. And then occasional commodities trades that I'll do. I'll dabble in stocks here and there. I stay away from mutual funds. Don't like them. Don't like retirement plans. Anyways, I could dive into that stuff later. I definitely geek out on construction. I love building stuff. It's kind of my manly spot. I don't know, it's just something I've always been interested in, and it's just what I really get into. And then also, I just can't get away from what's happening with Trump and this administration in the country. The country is very important to me. I spent quite a bit of time when I was younger. I was a boat captain, and I got to travel and see a lot outside of the United States, and I got a different appreciation for it. So I really like following what's happening, especially with Trump. And I don't agree with everything he does, and I certainly did not agree with what Biden did, or I could go down all the presidents. But it's very entertaining TV. I love watching it. Um, and I did a video this week on George Washington. And this was one that I really researched and looked about because I went back and I said, well, let me go back to the beginning. So I went back to George Washington and really what his mindset was. And it's amazing. Again, history buff, love history. And I always said that, they say history repeats itself. I always say history rhymes, more like the Mark Twain thing. But you can definitely learn. And of course, by looking at charts to do investments, that gives me a history. It gives me uh, a basis for trading. A lot of times, charts will definitely give you a direction on which way a stock is going. I mean, I always say life is about probabilities, not certainties. So, anyways, with saying all that and getting in that detail, is that this uh, thing that I did on George Washington was who was he? What was he trying to do? What his beliefs were, and would he be disappointed in how he warned the country of what he was fearful of when they did the Constitution, him being president? I mean, the country wanted him to continue. The country wanted him to be king. And he said, "Nope, that's not good for a nation." They wanted him to do, more terms. He said, "No, it's someone else's turn." And you know, have read different things on the man before. Um, some good, some not so good. Whatever the story was about. But it seems like all those founding fathers, they were not perfect men, and they knew they weren't perfect, and they had things that they were necessarily not proud of. One of the things that Washington was not proud of was the fact of slaves and slave ownership. And then I even dived into his personal life and uh, his true love and Martha. And what I found unique, and I put it in there. There's so much I could have put into this video. I could have made this video like an hour long, but I only made it. I try to keep them short. And was the fact that he made Martha burn all their correspondence back and forth while they were being married. And I thought that was kind of unique because he didn't want anybody to judge or look at him and the type of man he was or wasn't. Who knows what that was? But she did it. She burned all the correspondence that they had. Whatever their love letters or fights. Well, I don't. Who knows what they could have been. But she torched them, which I thought was, kind of unique. That she would actually do that. So, getting into more of the stories here, check that out. The one on George Washington I did. So, getting back to how I'm going to do this is I'm going to look at the stories that I did videos on, and then also what's happened this week. This one hit me this morning that I thought was worth sharing was, you know, I'm a fan of Musk and Trump just by what they're trying to do. And I look back and see how, you know, uh, Musk gets attacked for a lot of different things. I think the man's on the spectrum, and a lot of people say he's not even human. A lot of what him and Trump are trying to do is actually trying to bring the country full circle, turn that ship 180 degrees. And in doing so, he's been very, very, very successful. I mean, he did not need this, and to see what he is doing, and then now I often wonder about the tax on his dealerships, on Tesla stock. I mean, it's costing the man billions of dollars, and I don't think he's scared. I don't think he's scared of anything. In fact, if you get a chance, watch the Rogan interview where he is worried that he is going to be um, killed. I mean, he actually has a fear of being killed, which is really, really crazy that he's worried about such a thing. But he is. So the support Elon and everything else. It says Tesla stock surges after Donald Trump endorsement. So so Elon brought 5 Teslas out to the White House, and Trump says he's buying one of them, which I think this is crazy because if you look at it and really put your head around it, all of the tree huggers and environmentalists and leftists all drove Teslas. That's all who bought them. And now I guess they're feeling betrayed because their man has said, you know what, I'm out. I'm going to support Trump and this whole action that's going on to, save the world or save the United States. How funny would it be if the blue collar guys, I don't know if you want to call them shorebillies, rednecks, your common everyday American, certainly people more relatable to me, because being in construction and working in that world, you get your hands dirty, and I always tell everybody you got to speak redneck. If you don't know how to speak redneck, you won't last long. So it would be funny if now they all started, driving Teslas. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens on that one. So, uh, anyways, I just thought that was interesting. That picture of Donald in his new, looks like a red one he picked out. Uh, Man, keep going with the federal government layoffs. Now, I live outside of DC, not far away. I've been here my whole life. I've traveled all over the United States, been in most of the states, even was up in Alaska for a while, all through Central America, been on most all the waterways. But the layoffs and the layoff tracker. So, living outside of the Washington, D.C. area, we've always kind of had a protection from recessions. What's wild about this one is this is like the epicenter of where the recession's happening. So this week, this is a tracker that I'm following, just because I know a lot of people in the federal government. But for example, this was a Newsweek article. It said federal government layoff tracker 2025, latest Doge cut so far, and it talks about how NASA has announced closing offices and different departments, and they're going to lay off 1,300 people. Which with NASA, it's you got SpaceX. It seemed like going to a private thing. I never understood because I do a lot of contracting. I've done government contracting, worked in that world. It never made sense to me that we're going to send people into space on the lowest bid. It didn't work out right a few times. So I know when I work with clients, sometimes I tell them, when we do bids, we'll get numbers and you throw out the highest, you throw out the lowest, and you look for that median one in the middle and you kind of decipher and see what you're getting. And, a lot of times it's a process to get there. So, anyways, with thoughts of that. Layoffs announced by U.S. employers jumped 245% in February, with federal government job cuts leading the surge, according to Reuters. Government agencies accounted for the bulk of these layoffs, with 62,530 federal workers dismissed in the first 2 months of 2025. That's a dramatic 41,311% increase compared to the same period of 2024. It's a pretty massive increase. So how many federal jobs have been cut? It's not immediately clear exactly how many federal workers have been cut in 2025. However, based on reporting by Newsweek and other media outlets, which I don't think we can trust them, an estimated 222,000 job cuts have been announced this year, with more expected as federal agencies. So I did a video on this as well because looking at the different departments like the Department of Education being cut, there are so many government contractors in the space in and around the DC area, really all over the United States. And they talk about how there's 2 contractors per every 1 government employee. That blew my mind away. So I do know from an account, one of the companies that I work with, the young, he's not a kid, he's a young man, he's 23 years old, had applied to work for a government contractor on Fort Meade. And Fort Meade houses like the EPA, NSA, some of the agencies. And he's a tile setter for us. I mean, so he's always laying tile. He's a good kid. And anyways, he had given his notice with the general contractor that I was working with, and I saw him just recently. I saw him in the gym. And I said, "Hey, when you start your job?" Now he had applied, got fingerprinted, gave his notice, uh, gone through the background check. He got the call on Monday that they no longer needed him because of what was happening. So I was like, "Wow, this is really happening." So, needless to say, he was pretty upset about it. But he'll be fine. Um, Here's another article. A Trump critic just won Greenland's election. So Trump is beating our neighbors up, and I did a video about this, and this is why it says in here, is how I think that Trump has shifted the focus out of Europe. And I'm going to do one on that of why the US's policies in Europe are shifting. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you look at the money that we spend, you look at the protection we give them, they can't protect themselves. Uh, Germany, France, England, nobody can protect yourself. So we've been protecting them. Now, we have been paying the brunt of that. And I think that, sours Trump. So I think he's looking at how, one, they can pay their freight. He's definitely mending the relationships with Russia. Uh, Looking into Ukraine, what's happening there, and I'll get into that later, that's just a dumpster fire. And Mr. Zelensky is not an innocent actor at all in this. Got a lot of really good information on that. And, looking at Greenland, I mean, there's, when you peel everything back, I said he was shifting to a Western Hemisphere strategy, South America, Canada, obviously Greenland, Central America. He was going to go after that, and he is. He's definitely, as those are areas that he is attacking. So, as Zelensky said, we got a nice ocean to protect us. So, who fears? Who are our biggest enemies? Our biggest enemy right now is probably Mexico, even though it's a trading partner. But it's not Mexico, the government itself, but it's the lack of government and the cartels that run that government is probably our biggest fear. So to have weapons that they have bought off the black market, specifically going to defend Ukraine, that's pretty unnerving. Canada, just think he's trying to get in line, which it seems like he's making headway on that. But Greenland, a lot of, at first, people looked at this and said that this was a defeat for him because the party, now I don't understand exactly how the politics work in Greenland, but they want to get away from Denmark, and so they're pro becoming independent. Now it's a multi-party system, and the party that didn't win but got, I think it's 20% of the vote, is a pro-Trump supporter. The party that did win got 25% of the vote. They're not a Trump partner, but they're all independent, or for independence of Denmark. So it sounds like Greenland wants to become independent. That gives them the 55% majority between the two parties. I think maybe it's 30 and 25, however the numbers worked out. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Greenland, because I don't think we've heard the end of this. And I've studied Greenland and why it's so important for the U.S., not only from a defense strategy, but also from a natural resources play. Um, let's talk about government shutdown and how the government is looking at down the barrel of a government shutdown. Now, I've seen this so many times. It's kind of what do they call it, kabuki theater, you know. But in this article, it says Senate Democrats appear ready to back down in government shutdown fight. And you're like, why would the Democrats slow down? Senate Democrats say the 6-month government funding resolution that passed the House today is a horrible bill, but there's growing sentiment within the Senate Democratic Conference that it would be too risky to block the legislation and risk a government shutdown that could drag on for weeks. So they don't want, even though they don't like it, they do not want to brunt the blame on shutting down the government after Trump and Musk have already fired all these people. So, they need 60 votes. The Republicans have 53. Um, it says if the Democrats think that they want to burn down the village to save it, that's terrible, and that's going to have serious impacts on millions and millions of people. That's true. So, uh, they're warning about chaos while Musk wages his war. Trump's on his trade war, talking about how terrible it is down, but terrible is all that is. That's much better that if they agree, that way they don't get blamed for it. Moscow, they're very wary of jumping the gun after U.S. and Ukraine unite over a ceasefire deal. Well, by all means, I'm not a Russian advocate or anything like that, but after studying Ukraine, Russia, what's happening there, one thing that I have learned that specifically Putin is a very calculated person, and he is very reserved in what he does. Learning about Ukraine, especially Crimea, how that all went down over the last this a lot of people think this just happened overnight. This did not happen overnight. This has been going on for a very long time. And basically, Russia, Putin drew a line in the sand. That line was crossed. And to get into a little bit more details, and I'm thinking about doing a video on this because I just find it so interesting, is that within Crimea, it was its own independent country. Ukraine went in, took it over. But actually, when you go back to look at the accords from when Russia was broken into pieces during Gorbachev, was that it said that if any of those states were to default, it would go back to Russia. So, and the people there wanted to go back to Russia. So that's the weird thing about this whole thing, is that the country is so divided, they can't get along. It's so corrupt, it's insane, and the people want to be back with Russia. And it wasn't part of Ukraine either, which I didn't even understand until I started looking into it, was that it was this very small peninsula that was governing itself, and it just couldn't do it anymore and just basically fold up shop. And Russia's like, well, you come back to us. And Ukraine was like, oh, no, you don't. And of course, they're in the pissing match that they're in now, dragging everybody in. Bottom line is, we're not capable, nor should we be getting involved in wars. And I think it's definitely time. This is where I do agree with Trump. We shouldn't be the peacekeeper for the world, or should we be the bank for the world? But that's my own 2 cents. Canada imposed 25% retaliatory tariffs on $21 billion worth of U.S. Now, Canada, good luck, guys. I know what you're trying to do. Trump, he did make some headway on Ontario, especially because, see, we were getting energy on the northern states. I think it was Maine, Michigan, New York, but Ontario was charging a very high tariff on that energy coming here. So they've decided not to suspend that. When you break it all down, and you got to fact check everything, but it's all about fairness. It is not fair for us to pay, if we make goods here and it goes to other countries that they, uh, put tariffs on our stuff coming into the country. Now we want a tariff coming to this country. They don't like that. They get upset about it. So part of my job history has been in construction, and I s- spent a lot of time in fastening systems, all kinds of steel related type instruments. So I'm very versed in tariffs, how that affects things, and I was very active in that world when Trump came in the first time, but even before Trump, there was tariffs. So this is really just nothing new, but it's definitely a negotiating tactic. Go back and look. I did one on how art of the deal, how Trump definitely he uses those tactics in this negotiation. Um, the housing market, again, very big interest of mine. Something I've been looking at a lot because I do follow that industry, being around it. Looking at these home builders like D.R. Horton and Lennar. You know, uh, year to date, these guys are down seven. See, D.R. Horton's down 7%, Lennar's down 9.3, NVR 9.3, Toll Brothers 14 and a half. Um, a lot of these guys are really down, which you look at the lumber prices and the price per board foot, and with the tariffs, it's really going to be interesting in the building world because, as I explained to a lot of people, is that when you build something, you're basically bundling commodities, and these commodities come from all around the world, whether it's steel, wood, plastics, asphalt. You look at asphalt. When you're making shingles, most of that uh, asphalt comes from Venezuela. When you're looking at wood, a lot of the wood comes from Canada. In fact, a lot of our cedars all came from Canada. Steel. I've worked and I still work in industries where it comes from Oman in Africa, or our stainless. A lot of our stainless comes from Austria, and it's when you build anything, even if you go to a local hardware store, and you buy a box of screws or nails, it's probably coming from Taiwan. So it's really a bundling of all these commodities from all over the world that when you put them together and you build anything, whether it's a deck, a house, it's a worldwide effort and trade and everything. So it's gonna be really interesting. I don't see this going anywhere but bad for the housing industry and these housing stocks, uh, because one, it comes down to what's the consumer what they can afford to buy, and affordability is just not there. There is no such thing as affordable housing. People that say that house more affordable doesn't exist. I live in numbers when it comes to building any type of structure, and I know what everything from the soft cost to build something, from permits, fees, government regulations, to concrete, labor. I always tell the general contractors I work with, when we sit down and I'm consulting or whatever, their business is basically they're in the business of selling labor, because everything else is controlled by other markets. They don't produce the steel, they don't produce the wood, they don't produce the materials to put it together. So what they do produce is the labor in which to put it all together. So it's gonna be interesting to watch this, and I think I'm gonna put a watch list together because I like trading this stuff. Like, this might be over some people's heads, but um, shorting all of this has been something that I've really, really dove into a lot lately because I know that industry very, very well. Let's talk about shred and burn, baby. USAID. I don't get this. USAID staff ordered to destroy evidence on Tuesday. A senior USAID official on Tuesday ordered the agency's remaining staff to report to their now former headquarters in Washington, D.C. for an all day group effort to destroy documents. I mean, Are you guys just that clueless? I just don't get it. The materials marked for destruction include classified safes and personal documents at the Ronald Reagan Building, according to an email sent by USAID's acting executive director, Erica Carr. Erica, what in the world are you doing? Shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break. Oh my goodness. It's just, if these people weren't going to go to jail, and that's getting back to the Washington video that I did, is where did this all go so far awry that it's supposed to be country first? And it's not. It's these people. I mean, they should have been. She should be tried as a traitor. I just, you go back and about Aaron Burr, and it's just, oh my goodness. Anyways, get myself all worked up. Ukraine will not recognize any territory occupied by Russia. Of course they won't. Wednesday, President Zelensky shuts the door on territorial concessions awkwardly at a moment Ukraine has just agreed to a U.S. plan for a 30-day ceasefire. I don't think this cat wants to quit. He just attacked Moscow. The more I learn about Zelensky, the more I realize he is a bad actor. He is, he's not. I think Russia is getting a little upset with the United States because they haven't taken him out, but he needs to be replaced. I'm not going to talk anymore about that. Okay, let's talk about something local to me, which is the DC housing market. MLS, a multiple listing service covering the Mid-Atlantic region, released new weekly data through March 9th showing that active listings are piling up, totaling 31,597, up 20% from last week. It's pretty big up. That's crazy. Now, of course, I know all these counties. I've worked or been in most of these counties. North Central Virginia, just south of DC, the data shows active listings are up 39% versus the same period a year ago. Not looking good for the DC housing market, which is way overpriced. This is an article that I did about the Department of Education. This is an update. Department of Education to cut half its workforce. My wife's a teacher, and and in my family, a lot of my aunts and uncles and were teachers. At one time, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and then I actually did my student teaching, and I was like, nope, don't want to do that. Instead, I went into coaching, and the U.S. Department of Education on March 11th announced that 1,315 employees, about half its workforce, will be laid off within 90 days. So I looked into the creation of the Department of Education and what it does. And I really, after doing that, got a really good understanding. Trump is not off base by getting rid of the Department of Education, and the way its misallocation of funds worked. They just say about 600 of its 4,133 employees have already agreed to leave voluntarily, including 313 who accepted the 25,000 buyout. So when I looked at this, they get a pretty sweet deal here, because it says that the laid off staffers will be awarded severance payments based on the years of service, with most senior members reaching up to 20 weeks of salary. That's not too bad. That's almost 6 months. In addition, they will. Oh, this is what I read. Only 47 cents of every dollar per agency provides to states makes it to the classroom. So only 47 cents of every dollar. So 53 cents goes to other places other than the classroom. And my wife just got a notice that one of the programs that she's in is not being cut at all. It's just being redirected. So I did an article on gold and silver, specifically gold, hedging against the markets. I believe I'm watching things. um, that everything's way overvalued. So I like gold and silver and commodities as hedges against the market. So this was just basically an article about how stocks have never been more overvalued, and gold and silver is something to look at. I think it's something everybody should look at. I like it for many reasons. I like it because of one, getting money outside of the system. Not that I think the system's going to crash, but I just like the inflation hedge that it has. You look at what 1 ounce of gold would buy you in 1920, and you look at what 1 ounce of gold will buy you now. If you look at $1 would buy you in 1920, what $1 would buy you now, it's a huge difference. Uh, I'm a secret. I love watching the gold shows and have this secret desire to go out and pan for gold. And you know, I was at this investment seminar last year, and you know, it's interesting how one thing about gold is it is a store of energy. Not only is it a store of value, but energy. And you're like, well, what does that mean? You know, if you ever watch a gold show, if you watch ever how they produce an ounce of gold, you look at how much money, diesel fuel, labor, machinery, everything that goes into producing 1 ounce of gold, that will really make you understand why it will not become less valuable over time. And the fact that there's only an infinite amount of it, I mean, that's why all of the big central banks are buying it. That and the U.S. really made a mistake, or the Biden administration made a big mistake when it weaponized the dollar. Okay, law. Oh, this one I had to get into. And this is a lawsuit about Girl Scout cookies. Man, I used to love Girl Scout cookies, which is getting into my last update. So this lawsuit says that the cookies are contaminated with dangerous heavy metals, including aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury, and pesticides, including glyphosate. It's pretty much all of our food that's processed. So, anyways, this lawsuit, and it's Amy Mayo, the plaintiff, is looking to sue the Girl Scout cookies and the manufacturer, and she's done this testing, and they filed a claim. So there you go. Old Girl Scouts, they're not safe from anything either. Getting to RFK, man, I like RFK. I wish he, and I know it's a medical thing he had. He's kind of hard to understand at time, but he's a very smart man. I go back to looking at him when he was a little kid back on that film. Standing there saluting. Anyways, he is headed after the antidepressant industry. RFK is pulling back the curtain on reality that could shake the pharmaceutical industry to its core. Mental health isn't just about brain chemistry, it's about what we eat, which is a segment into what I'm going to talk about a little bit. The poison is our food. Over 1,000 ingredients banned in Europe are still allowed in America's food supply. It's true. America's food system is making people sick, and Big Pharma is cashing in on the consequences. Absolutely. The good news is that RFK is raising awareness, and some restaurant chains are taking notice. Steak and Shake, for example, has ditched seed oils in favor of beef tallow for frying their food, a move that aligns with Kennedy's push to eliminate. Did you know that McDonald's French fries were originally fried in tallow? I didn't realize that because I'm working on this other article. What's it? Sweet Green has pledged to remove seed oils from its menu. Outback Steakhouse is also reported reevaluating its ingredients in response to growing consumer demand. Yeah, this is where you have to take action for your health. So I'm just going to briefly talk about this. Today actually is my birthday, and I just turned 55, and I started back on June 6th of 2024. And at June 6th, 2024, I was 317 pounds, not sleeping well, not back always hurt, low energy, Um, anyways, I had through a friend uh, got introduced to the carnivore diet. I've been on the carnivore diet now. Well, since then, since June 6th, I'm just teetering. I'm almost there at 70 pounds. I'm 69. I was 69 pounds this morning, teetering on that 70-pound mark. And man, I tell you what, I should give you pictures of my face and how chubby it was, and even my chest and everything else. So I am a huge advocate for better eating. It has improved my mental clarity. It has improved my mood. It has improved my stamina. It has improved uh, really all aspects of my life. Not only that, last year I would get sick and I would be sick for weeks. Now, knock on wood, um, we just had a bout of illness went through our family with fever, coughing, all those different things. I was the only one in the family that did not get sick. Now I'm the only full carnivore. I'm as close to lion as possible. I'm about 99% red meat, a few eggs, not a whole lot. Every once in a while, I'll dabble in with a little bit of cheese, but not much. The only thing I drink is water. And other than that, it's pretty much red meat, bacon every once in a while. I'll cook pork ribs. I love to cook. So every once in a while, but this weekend I cooked beef ribs. So yeah, all I can say is that if you want more information on that, I'm starting another channel called Simple Carnivore where I go into the lifestyle, how to get started, how to cook, everything else. Uh, it's something that I first dabbled with about 4 years ago. My wife thought I was absolutely nuts for doing it. She told me how sick I was going to be. The first time that I tried it, I had lost over 50 pounds, felt great. And, anyways, went back to the standard American diet, gained a bunch of weight. Now I'm back full carnivore baby, and I'm 70 pounds. My goal is 100. So hopefully I get there soon. So, anyways, hope you like it. And I'll see you next weekend, Wednesday.